Welcome to Shut Up and Say Something. I am your host and creator of the show, Deedre Daniel. This podcast is all about how to live a fascinating life, and we're learning how to do that one interesting conversation at a time. We try to stay away from discussing politics, religion, and the ad nauseum topic du jour, but anything else is fair game. And today I am speaking with Maria Scarangella. Maria is the president of Scarangella Consulting, LLC, and she is focused on leadership development and talent strategy. And I met Maria when I was the head of the Affinity Marketing Division at Geico. I had been there for a full 19 years. But when I met Maria, she was the director of sales and service in the California office. And then she continued to move on and move up within the company. And she was at Geico for 37 years, which makes my 19-year stint look like nothing. And Maria continued to climb up the corporate ladder where she became the vice president of talent and enterprise learning, where she created the talent acquisition and onboarding center of enablement and excellence. And she broke away from all of that security to start her own consulting firm. And I'm having Maria on today because many of you may be considering starting a business or a major career change, or you want to be promoted within your company. And I thought Maria could give us some tips on how to do that. So welcome, Maria.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to see you, and it's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, so good to see you too. So you had a long, rewarding career at Geico, and change is very difficult, and a major career changes are even harder. And so, how do you know when it's time to move on and do something different?
I think the most important thing is to really tap into your intuition
Mm,
and knowing yourself and knowing that when something doesn't feel right, it's time to do some soul searching and think about, is this the right environment for me? Am I on autopilot? Am I learning? Am I growing? And do I have some unfinished business that I want to do somewhere else where I can take my skills? And that's a hard thing to do because lots of times, you look outside and you say, well, is it money? Is it a change of pace? But you really have to dig down deep and think about, what do I really want? And my time is precious. So how do I want to be spending it?
sure. A lot of people have Sunday scaries where they don't want to go to the office on Monday. Is that an indication that it's time to move on, or is it just we all don't like working?
I think I think the Sunday scaries are a real thing. But what's causing you to feel that way? Is it that you really don't want to go back to this job and be with these people and do this work? Or is it that you really enjoyed your weekend and you want to have more time with your family? Those are two different, really different things.
Yeah.
And for me, it was about I thought I had more to give. And I thought I could take everything I learned, and I was very, very grateful for my years at Geico. In 37 years, I built some really great relationships and connections and did some things that I'm really proud of. And it gave me safety and stability as we were raising our children. We're able to put our kids through college and get them to be adults, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And at this stage in my life, I really do want to feel fulfilled and feel like I'm giving the best of myself and doing the things that really contribute to making the world a better place.
That's a very common feeling with people is trying to find their place. So before, someone just jumps out on their own, like what steps do you suggest people take before starting a business or making a major career change?
So it's a lot of soul searching. It's really thinking about what's important to you. What are your values? What do you want out of life? What do you want you think back to when you're starting out, you have this impression of work, what work is going to be. And the more you work, you realize there's a lot of changes that happen and adjustments and different paths. And you don't have to do one thing forever. You can change and you can adjust. So, really thinking about what you want out of work,
Mhm.
what your skills are, what your values are, and then what's the risk. So, for me, starting my own business, I have to generate all the income. And the risk is giving up a salary and steady pay and benefits and things like that. So, what can I do to mitigate that? How
Hmm.
can I prepare in advance? How do I make sure that I have enough money to cover my mortgage for X period of time until the business is up and running? And then think about, do you have something that you can bring to the world that's unique that you can market?
Hmm. Yeah. Finding a problem and providing the solution.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a really big opportunity is looking at everything that's changed over the last few years and identifying a pain point for people and then bringing a solution forward.
I know for me in starting my business, I jumped in and then I realized there are a lot of skills that I don't have that I need to develop. And I'm not in a position to pay someone else to do it. So I have to figure it out myself. I'm going to have to build my own website. I'm going to need to create my own ads. I mean, there's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to actually make them happen. And then when do you post them on social media and who do you target and all that kind of stuff? I didn't know. I had to figure it out myself and then do it myself. So wearing all those hats is definitely an awakening. And I think for anyone who wants to break out on their own, I want you to imagine all the different jobs that you would have to do yourself and perhaps take some time to learn those skills while you're still pulling in a regular paycheck before you just jump in and try to balance all of it all at the same time. And that's what I would do if I had to do it all over again. That's what I would do. Even invoicing and billing and what have you, like I had to get QuickBooks and figure out how to use that and how to send off invoices to people and payment processors. I mean, you definitely want to get the money in the door, so you don't want any hurdles there. And so just learning that system as well. I thought, well, I probably could have done that on the side while I was collecting a regular paycheck so that I could just hit the ground running. I had so many friends tell me that they knew someone who could build a website. So for me, that was an issue, just dealing with all the different people that have a guy, know somebody that could help me out. But then you still got to filter through all of them and figure out, well, who actually has the skills and the right price point to interact with, because everyone knows somebody that could help you out and they're more than willing to take your money.
Absolutely.
So now you're used to managing this multi-million dollar budget. And you had hundreds and hundreds of employees working for you. So what have you learned working for yourself?
It's pretty surprising, but a lot of the same disciplines apply. I have to be really thoughtful about how I spend my time
Mm,
because every hour that I spend working on something should be leading to more business, delivering business, effectively moving the organization forward, moving my company forward. But it's really different when you're the person that designs the vision, sets the strategy, and then has to also deliver.
right?
Where in the past, I would set the strategy and have them help deliver. I'm learning to be much more diligent with how I spend my time,
Hmm.
taking all the lessons that I learned over all the years in the past and putting them into practice.
Right. You had mentioned earlier about personal values and how that should play into career choices. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to do work that aligns with what is most important for you as a person. Sometimes we get a job and it just continues to evolve and inertia takes over,
Hmm.
and you're on a path and you follow that path. And you don't take the time to really think about what are the most important things to me?
Hmm.
Is do I really value being recognized and being able to achieve? Is it more important to me to be challenged and to be in a creative environment? Is it more important for me at different stages of my life to have a job that is more demanding or less demanding, depending on the different stage of my life? So, really taking the time to assess what's most important for you. What do you value? I
Hmm.
value being able to be creative. Achievement is important to me. My family is important to me. So if I can work in an environment that aligns with what's most important to me, I can feel fulfilled at work and in the other areas of my life. When you get misaligned and you feel like the work that you're doing is not meaningful to you, or that you're compromising something that you really want to do this work, you have an internal conflict. And
Hmm.
that conflict causes stress, and it causes you to wonder, why am I doing this?
Sure.
Whereas if you're in a flow and you love what you're doing and you get to do that, and you want more and more of it, then you really enjoy your work and you can bring your whole self to work.
So you mentioned earlier about compromises and sacrifices. So life is filled with those, and we are often encouraged to give up something to get ahead. So when and where should someone draw the line on compromises and sacrifices regarding their career?
In my opinion, I think it has to be leading you to something that is the greater fulfillment of your life.
Mm,
So, going to school is a great example. If you're working, and for you to get to a role that you want to be in, and you need more education, you're going to have to sacrifice your social life, maybe free time with your family. You're going to have to give up some extra things that are in your life to achieve this goal of going to school. To me, that compromise is worth it. But if you ever have to compromise your integrity, or compromise your beliefs, or compromise who you are as a person, that's not worth the compromise. I
mhm.
think there's choices that you have to make. Every choice in life has consequences. And are you willing to live with the consequence because this choice is important?
I agree. I have found in the work that I do, a lot of people don't know what their values are at all. And I'll ask them to create a personal life mission statement. Businesses have mission statements. Let's make a mission statement for your life. And it just, their brains explode. Like, what? I never even thought about this before. And then they want to write this long paragraph like, no, 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 no. It's got to be like 7 words,
Mhm.
7 words or less that you could just quickly repeat, and then that'll guide your decisions going forward. That'll help you know if you're in alignment with your values, because this is my mission. What are you trying to accomplish? And that really does put people on the right trajectory. I find just so many people haven't taken the time to define their values.
So what I do with a lot of clients is say, okay, let's pretend you're 80 years old today. Let's go back and tell me all the wonderful things that you want people to say about you. And you find out like what's really important to them.
Hmm.
And then from there we get a list of values and start now take all your values, and if you could use them to design your mission in life, what would that be?
Yeah, that's definitely an effective way. Have you ever written that letter to your teenage self? Did you ever do that exercise?
I haven't done that.
Yeah, it's writing a letter to your future self, but also writing a letter to your past self. And that helps you really think about your position right here in life. When we were all teenagers, we knew or hoped for certain things in our life. And are we where we thought we would be? That's where a lot of people have like the midlife crisis, like, I'm not doing what I thought I was going to do or I wanted to do. And so, okay, well, this is how much life you conceivably could have next. And so, what do you want to do with it? And yeah, defining those values, that helps. But yeah, you should try writing a letter to your teenage self.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been working a lot with people about, okay, let's think of where you were 10 years ago, where
Mhm.
you want to be in 10 years, and how does that fit in with where you are today? How
Yeah,
are you gonna get there? So you have this vision for where you want to be in the future. What are you doing today to get there? And
mhm,
that's part of the discussion about choices and consequences. If that's really important and you really want to get there, you got to make some choices today to make
right.
that.
Because 10 years will just fly by.
Absolutely.
And then you think, "Ugh, I'm not where I wanted to be." Well, you never took any steps to get there. And it's never too late. It's never too late to change the path. I think a lot of people will say, "Well, I've missed my opportunity," or "Time has slipped by." And I always want to push back on that. There is never a better time to start than now. Um, People often get into ruts personally and professionally. It just gets comfortable. They just start to zone out. And how should they get comfortable being uncomfortable so that they're always learning something new? Do you have any guidance there?
I do. I do. I think what happens a lot of times is we let external judgment decide that we should not change a job. We should not take a risk. We should not. And if you think about, there's so much judgment that happens from our family, from our employers, from social media. Everyone's telling us what we should do and how we should fit into society. And yet it goes back to what we've been talking about. You have to be true to yourself. And only when you try things do you find out what you're really capable of.
Mhm.
And you have to try and be your own toughest critic to say, am I really pushing myself? Am I really happy with being in this spot? If I'm happy in the spot and I feel fulfilled, it's not a rut.
Mhm.
But people wouldn't use those words if they didn't want something to change.
I have seen a lot of people recommit to their life. They go through a little period of time where they're doubting themselves and they're questioning, and I think that's healthy. And then they can say, "Yep, this is where I want to be." And then they
Yeah.
fully commit to it, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I don't think everyone needs to go around changing. However, I do feel like a lot of other people don't change when they need to. And I think a big part of that is because they're afraid of making mistakes. When you try something new, you're going to mess up. You're going to constantly mess up, and we're taught not to make mistakes growing up as children. And then a lot of businesses don't allow for those kind of mistakes either. So how do you help people become more comfortable with failures and hurdles and developing grit and the fortitude to keep going?
Yeah, mistakes, not in the moment, but mistakes are a very big gift. And people don't always feel that way. No one wants to make a mistake. No one wants to intentionally not do well. But a mistake is when you learn. You learn the most from the things that are difficult or things that don't go well because you think more about it and you ponder it. And you really have to allow yourself to learn because if you're not learning, you're not growing. And if
Mhm.
you're not trying new things, you're not going to get better. So, understanding and being pretty upfront that you're not going to be perfect and that you're going to make mistakes is more of a mindset shift. I think what happens though sometimes is people are too worried about looking good or they have that voice in their head that's saying, no, you can't do it, or you're not good enough, or you have to be perfect and that holds them back. And think about like growing up, you hear no thousands and thousands and thousands of times for the first at least 10 years of your life, most of your life. So, you have to go from a mindset of saying no to a mindset of saying yes and try things and grow. I think if you can take your self-sabotaging voice and put that aside and find that voice inside that says you can do this, try it, what's the worst that's going to happen, and tap into that more, you see yourself growing and changing. But it's difficult.
Yeah, it is. I just have to be comfortable with the fact that I'm wrong all the time. I'm wrong. Everything I do is just gonna be a little broken. I'll eventually come out of it, but I just I just have to embrace it. Like, yeah, this I'm gonna screw up. I'm coming in knowing that I'm gonna mess this up. It's
But
fine.
nobody's perfect. And we look at our own mistakes much more than we look at the mistakes of others. And if
Mhm.
we just accept that if everyone could be overt about saying, I'm gonna make mistakes, it's gonna happen, like you just said, we'd all be trying more things.
Yeah, you don't want your brain surgeon to do that though, right? Like you
No, you don't.
right. So you don't want your tax guy making mistakes. Yeah. Um, you've been teaching humanomics. Did I say that right? Humanomics?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the economics of treating your people well and developing them so that the company and individual thrive. Did I
That's
do that right?
yes, you did.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So, what are the micro lessons that you could share with managers and company owners that are listening to this episode?
So it's important to understand how you are spending your money to support your people. And Humanomics really is a way of building a framework for your decision making so that you can invest in the things that are going to give you, your company, and your employees the biggest value. And some of the items, when it comes to people think, that's fluffy. I can't, I don't know how to calculate this. I don't know how to put a dollar value on it. But if you think about, there is a certain amount of money and money, time, and resources dedicated to every aspect of the employee life cycle. And if you focus on the things that matter the most and have the biggest impact and give the biggest value, and some of those things that may not be as impactful, you could put aside. And especially right now, when we're in different economic times, you have to make choices
Mhm.
with how you spend your time and how you spend your money. And Humanomics really is a way to create that framework for decision making that's connecting the employee to the ultimate goals of the company so that you can get alignment and people can see how they fit in. And then they realize that they're connected to the purpose of the company and that they have an impact that's greater than themselves.
There are many companies around the world, but I've noticed, especially in America lately, that are laying off thousands of people and then turning around hiring people to fill a lot of those positions they just let go. What's going on there?
If they're filling the same jobs, they must be saying that there's a skill mismatch.
Mhm.
I think what's happening right now, in more general terms, is companies really are reassessing their whole employee base. And they're saying, these are the skills that we need for the future. These are the skills that we have today. And instead of redeploying people, we'll lay people off and then we will hire people that have those skills.
So why
Um,
wouldn't they train people to do those jobs?
you assess your workforce and you upskill them so that the people that are loyal to you, that already know your culture and your environment, get the benefit of learning and growing and can contribute more to the company. So I'm not advocating that strategy of lay people off and hire other people. I can try and explain the thought process behind it, but I think investing in the people that you have, the people that are loyal to you, and developing them
Mhm.
is always a better strategy.
I agree, and they're already so invested in the company, and, like, to your point, there's all of this industry knowledge that they have, and if they know that you're going to work with them and you say, "Alright, these are the skills we need. Who is interested in these types of jobs? This is the kind of schooling we need to put you through." I mean, I just think they'd be so much more appreciative that we're growing together as an organization to hit those goals.
Yeah, and when you think about how much turnover and disengagement costs industry,
Mhm.
you can get someone excited about learning something new and have them be even more committed to the company for the future. It's a win-win.
Absolutely, because the morale for all the people that are left after a layoff is terrible because they're wondering, "Am I next? Am I going to be treated like that?" To know that a company is going to grow and grow with you, that is going to get more buy-in for all of the employees as opposed to at any given moment, I'm going to log into the computer and it's just not going to work because 'cause I've been let go. I mean, that's not the kind of environment most people wanna work in, I would imagine.
Yeah, you don't thrive when you're afraid.
Right.
We were talking about not making mistakes, and if you're afraid that you're gonna lose your job, you're not gonna challenge yourself to be your best and try things and be innovative. You're trying to protect yourself, you're trying to lay low, you're trying to survive. And the company doesn't get the benefit of your best.
That's right. So you talked about going to school, and that would be the time you wanna give this sacrifice, but what would be a sacrifice that's not worth giving up? Maria, do you have an example of where you feel like you made a decision that was not in alignment with your values?
I made a choice to take a promotion to DC when my daughter was about to start her senior year of high school.
Mm,
We did not want to move her and disrupt her life by having her leave high school. And I thought at the time, well, it'll just be easier. We'll let her have that. And then I'll fly back and forth and commute back and forth. But I realized she not only needed to be in the same high school, she needed her mom to be
Mm,
around. And I missed out. And I really value my family. And that choice took me away.
mhm,
And I didn't come back as often as I would have liked, and I just kept thinking, "Well, I'll just work harder and I'll work through it." It did more damage to me because I realized how much I was missing out on. So that choice, that compromise, I don't think was worth it. There was probably other things that I could have done to figure out how to make the situation better, but I learned a lot from it, and now I'm making different choices as a result of it.
yeah, and there'll always be other opportunities to make money, but it's so hard when it's right in front of you.
Right.
And you're also providing for your family. So the logical thing to do is to take the opportunity. Why wouldn't you? I wouldn't beat yourself up. I think so many people have been in that situation and have chosen as you did because it's this golden opportunity and you think this is going to help my family out in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what we saw through COVID, when people really were reassessing what's important to them, everyone pretty much on a global level saying, I don't know if this is right. I don't know if I am living aligned with my values.
Mhm.
And, we went from this time of fear when COVID first hit to this time of we're trying to get the economy back and everyone is reassessing where they are. And now I think we're heading into a new, what I call the great realignment. So we had the great resignation, then we have the change that was generated with everyone reevaluating and moving, and now I think it's kind of the great realignment where we're getting more balanced, um,
Mhm.
but people are saying, you know what, I'm going to make choices,
Yeah.
and I need to do what's right for me, but I also have to be thoughtful about, companies are in business to make money. So I have to be able to contribute and be a valuable contributor to the company. And I think sometimes, we have to make sure we're balancing both sides of the equation.
Right. However, if they don't take the time to assess on both sides, I think for the management as well, are they treating their employees well? What do they value? And for the employees to think, okay, what do I value? And back to your point of realignment, I think there also could be another R word, which is the great regret if people don't actually figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's time for the pet peeve segment. Everyone has those little things that annoy them, but we rarely mention them when we get to know someone. What are your pet peeves?
My biggest pet peeve is when my husband doesn't listen to me.
Join the club.
Yeah, we've been married for 35 years. So, there's a lot of moments, but that's my biggest pet peeve. Rudeness is another one. Like,
Okay.
you think about when you go to the grocery store and people are on their cell phones while the cashier is checking them out.
Mhm.
That bothers me
Yeah,
a
that
lot.
bothers me too.
And these people that have worked really hard, like, I think about people working through COVID in those customer facing jobs and they're not appreciated.
Mhm.
That's a big pet peeve.
What were you afraid of as a child? And what are you afraid of now?
What I'm afraid of now, living in Tucson, Arizona, is bad Mexican food. There's a lot of really good, but bad Mexican food.
Is there really bad Mexican food in Tucson? Are you serious?
Yes, there is.
Rounding this out on a positive note, what are you looking forward to in the future?
I'm looking forward to figuring out how this next chapter is going to evolve. And, my business launched in August, so we're still new. So I'm really excited to see how it will all unfold. And I'm also really excited to see how the girls' lives unfold. And so much of our life up to this point was about, getting them through college, getting them to be strong, independent women, getting their career started. And my youngest daughter's going to graduate college in June. That's really exciting. And we're at a very different phase. It's also figuring out, my husband and I are reacclimating to being empty nesters.
Hmm.
One of the things that I'm working on is being more spontaneous because my life has been so ultra scheduled and sometimes over scheduled. So it's something I'm working on. I'm challenging myself to be more spontaneous.
That's a good goal. I love it. It would be funny if you scheduled your spontaneity. Like, I'm going to be spontaneous at 3:30 on Fridays.
Well, we went to my daughters are great mirrors, and we were going. The two of them live in New York, and we were going to visit them. And I told my oldest my goal is to be more spontaneous, and she said, "Well, how many things do you have scheduled for the trip?" And I said, "Well, I have like general themes for days," and she's like, "Okay, that's really not spontaneous, Mom. You gotta keep working on that." So we'll see how I do over the Christmas vacation when everyone comes home. I'm just excited that this is the first time that it's going to be a holiday and I am not going to work.
It's going to be an amazing feeling. Seriously. Like this is what relaxing with family feels like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And now it's time for the very interesting game show. This isn't trivia. Throw accuracy out the window and give me your most ridiculous and creative answers instead. And let's see if you can come up with the most interesting answer. Are you ready? Some of these questions are brand new and others are some old favorites. So, number one, mosquito repellents conceal you instead of repelling mosquitoes. What other repellents should be invented?
IRS auditors.
I think if you say that, then they track you down.
Oh no.
Oh, no, don't say it 3 times. Okay, next up, very few English words rhyme with the word silver. Make up a word that rhymes with silver and give it a definition.
Okay. So milver,
Okay.
which is a new commodity that's integral to nuclear fusion and will solve our energy problems. And there's big deposits of it on my property that I can sell.
Oh, I love it. So your land is filled with milver and you're going to sell those mineral rights.
And it's environmentally safe and will not do any damage to
Okay, so
anyone.
no fracking is what you're
No
saying.
fracking.
Okay, now I wrote this question earlier this morning. There is a city in New Mexico called Truth or Consequences. Why is it called that?
I have actually been there. It's not that far from Arizona. And it is because there was a radio host that hosted the 10-year anniversary episode of the radio show.
But that's the real answer. Are you just educating everyone? Because you have to come up with a fake answer.
Oh, a fake answer.
Yes, I want creative, ridiculous, and I mean, you can go ahead and educate everyone on what, because I read about it. So I know what you're saying is the legit
Okay.
answer. So why don't you educate everyone? But then we got to come up with an absurd answer.
So I only know that because I went there. And it's because the radio broadcast 10-year anniversary episode was filmed there, so they changed the name from Hot Springs to Truth or Consequences.
Yeah, what I read was there was a contest where they said whoever changes their name, whatever city changes their name to Truth or Consequences will come and record there. And so they did because they were just hot springs.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently they have tons of hot springs. But have you been to the festival that they have the first weekend of May to celebrate the naming of their
No, I
town?
haven't, but that should be on the list. I was there for a softball tournament for my daughter. We drove through
Uh-huh.
there, so we had to stop.
Well, I think you need to go the very first week of May. I've now added it to my list when I was going through rabbit holes, reading all about this. I'm like, so they have this thing called Fiesta. It's got a parade, they have a dance, and it's all to commemorate this special radio show. The host for 50 years showed up that first weekend in May to celebrate this. And, he's since passed. I'm pretty sure they didn't indicate that, but I'm assuming.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yeah. So I thought, well, shoot, I got to add that to my list of things to do. And I guess you could go to the hot springs and some little spa time or whatever. But can you come up with a ridiculous reason why it was called that?
So it was called that because there were so many people in this town that lied about what was happening there
Uh huh.
that they decided there has to be some type of penalty and we want to make our town more interesting. So if people didn't tell the truth, then they had to deal with the consequences. And some of the consequences were you have to run naked through the town square. You have to buy ice cream for everyone in the town under the age of 8. Um, and you have to host 10 visitors at the festival.
You have to make them dinner
Yeah.
and do their laundry. When I first saw the name, I thought, "This kinda sounds like that game Truth or Dare," and I just imagined an entire town playing Truth or Dare, and they're like, "Well, we can't call it Truth or Dare because they already have a trademark on that, so we're Truth or Consequences." Okay, if you could take full credit for something and everyone would believe you, what would it be?
It would be that I invented air and I made it available to everyone.
I appreciate the oxygen. What would be a strange New Year's resolution to tell your colleagues? So, for instance, I resolved to stop stealing office supplies this year.
So is this something that I would stop doing, or this is like the weirdest thing that I would have heard?
Can you imagine you're sitting in an office meeting and everyone's going around the table saying, oh, what their New Year's resolution is? And what would be the most ridiculous, absurd New Year's resolution for someone to share in that setting?
Well, I guess it would have to be something that they're really doing when they're on a
Right.
Zoom meeting and the video is off.
Okay. So what is it?
I resolve to actually pay attention to 50% of the Zoom meetings instead of the 10% that I do today.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. And the last question of the day, which is asked at the end of every episode, what should have been invented by now?
Like a rudeness zone that when someone is starting to get rude, they get like a little electric shock. What came to mind though was like some kind of like light that goes on that shines on them to say, be nice.
Would it just be like out of the sky, right?
Yeah.
So someone's being really rude. I love this. So someone's being really rude, and then suddenly, there's this light that just shines down on them, like you're being nasty. Stop it.
Yeah.
I love it. And then they try to move away from the spotlight and it follows them
It
like, nope,
follows
you're still
them.
being a bully. You're still being rude. Nope. They have to be nice for it to turn off. Can you imagine, like, you can't even go to
Oh,
sleep because
that
you're
would be
such a
great.
jerk?
Yeah.
It's right on you. I love it. That's fantastic. Great answer. All right. Well, thanks, Maria. How can folks get in touch with you?
My website is scarangellaconsulting.com, and there is a message space on there. And they can also connect to me through LinkedIn.
All right. Perfect. And do you have any last words of advice to the listeners?
I think the most important thing is you don't know what you can do or what you're capable of until you try. One of the greatest rewards for me in my coaching practice is people saying, I didn't think I could do it. You challenged me to do it. And now I'm seeing the success, or I'm seeing that it actually can happen. So be open to learning and just give yourself a little bit of a break.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And thank you, Maria, for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Deidre. It was a pleasure.
And until next time, be interesting. I remember we went to Italy shortly after I launched my business, but it was so new. I wasn't inundated with inquiries and all that. And it was so crazy to go on a trip and look at my cell phone and have one email, two emails. Hey, I can actually relax for the first time in decades. This is crazy. And just to be able to shut it off like that. I heard about some companies in Germany. I wanted to say it's Volkswagen. When you go on holiday and it's more than just like a day, I think they shut off your email. So it's impossible for you to check it. And it sends a message to the person who sent it to you. Not that, hey, I'm out of office, but you actually wind up checking it while you're away. But it actually says your email's being deleted, and if you really need to get in touch with this person, this is when they'll be back. Or you can just wait or go talk to someone else. But your email is,
Wow.
yeah, it's being deleted.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.